Did you have a good week last week? I'm just being smarty.
I found that Radisson receipt. You knew I had it. I put it in your inbox, just FYI.
Morning. How are you?
Did you have a...
Yeah, I
Thank you.
feel like I'm ready for it.
Did Kristen brief you?
Yeah, she did. She did brief me. Okay, go ahead and turn it back on. Alex, it's working good.
Get a new pickup, Phil? Phil? New pickup?
Yeah. Got rid of the big one, the 8 mile a gallon pickup. I got rid of that.
Yeah. Is Alan here?
Evidently, he told Mike he's going to be late. Start without him. Morning. Welcome to the March 25th, 2008 meeting of the Tulare County Board of Supervisors. Please rise and join the board and I as we salute the flag and then observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We don't have anything fun and exciting this morning as we did last week. So in that case, I think we should move right to the consent calendar. Gentlemen,
Motion to approve items 4 through 20.
Second.
motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Since the bulk of our items are timed items this morning, we will move to, oh, well, thanks for coming. Just lost half our audience.
Which wasn't too big.
But they're going back to work because they're hardworking. All right, we will move to item 21.
Morning, Madam Chair, board members. For the record, John Davis, Health and Human Services Agency. We're here before you today to ask your board to authorize the submittal of an application for a telephone emergency notification system in the amount of $728,000, or a little more than that actually, $728,840. This system, as your board knows, is a system that will allow us in times of emergency, will allow the administrator that your board decides will operate the system will allow the county to notify individuals by phone, literally reverse the phone calls to the population and tell your constituents when in fact there is a problem, what the problem is, and what they're expected to do. Typically these messages are a minute-long phone call that go to people, or can be that long. It's not just limited to phone calls, it's actually email. It'll handle email messages at the same time, text messages, does about 5 different operations in order to get a hold of people. The question is really not about getting a hold of them, but how long, and that is absolutely, I think, amazing. The system can manage about 2,000 phone calls in an hour, 2 million phone calls, excuse me, in an hour. So it's very likely we'll get a hold of everybody at one point or another. The system is $728,000, but that's 2 years. That's setting it up first, and then 2 years of maintenance. After that, the system needs to be supported by other funding sources if, in fact, we find that it is something we want to keep and something we want to add to. Those discussions are going on with the cities, and we're attempting to find other kinds of funding sources. The applications, and I think the reason why the cities would be interested, very interested, in fact, is that the applications are more than just emergency services, obviously. You close a road, you could literally walk in, identify the area that you want to call, and set those calls up for just that area. So it has a lot of applications. In fact, I think the same system has been used to do surveys. So there's a lot of applications for the cities, there's a lot of applications for the counties. This particular money will help us set up the system. We've asked for pretty much the maximum amount that we could ask for. There is $2 million available, and I believe there's 7 or 10 counties that are actually in the competition. We asked for what we wanted and what we needed, rather than shortchange ourselves or worry about what they'll give us and won't give us. They'll make that decision in the process. So we come to you today to basically ask you to permit us to go forward and to build this system so that we have a much better response to our constituents.
Mr. Davis, I had a quick question, and I was paying attention, but did you tell me that you've already had conversation with the cities, or is that you're looking for the grant first and then conversation?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You've
You've had conversations.
I've had conversations with the cities. We've had, I believe, 2 EOC meetings with city representatives where we discussed various proposals. We were 3 vendors came out to give presentations. We've essentially selected the vendor. Now it's a matter of trying to cobble up the funding. We would probably use whatever grant funds we would get from the state, although we're asking for the maximum. We don't believe we'll get the maximum.
Oh, come on.
And it's a matter of how to make up the difference, to use Homeland Security funds or what have you. The cities expressed a lot of interest in doing it. Now it's just a matter of, again, cobbling up the funds to make it happen.
Great, thanks. Any other questions from board members?
Real small technical one. How big, I've seen the ones like the school and the cities they use. How big is this piece of equipment and where will it be housed?
I have not seen the actual equipment.
I don't believe it's that large of a piece of equipment. I believe we can probably put the infrastructure in with no problem with what we currently have. Now it's a matter of
the ones I've seen, they're about the size of a 4-drawer chest of drawers and maybe 2 feet deep, a bunch of wires going in and out of them. They're not really that big with a computer, setting by them.
It's my understanding this is web-based as well.
Those only do like 200 calls per hour, and you're saying 2 million calls.
Yeah, we've set up the other freestanding systems before in different cities for calling seniors, as a matter of fact. But I think this one's web-based, and that's also another attraction to this system, is that the maintenance and the upkeep and the software and all of that is on the web, so that we don't have all that complexity, upkeep, and those kinds of expenses and complications. It's just whoever you name as the administrator literally goes on the system, draws the picture around the area that they want, and the calls, sets up the messages, and then the calls begin to go. So it's really set up at a distance for us.
The key is when you first put the system in place, all the land-based phones are a part of the system. So immediately you get about 70% of all the folks you need to contact. The challenge is to get folks who want to be contacted with their cell phones or via email. we'll have to, there'll be a public outreach part of this program where we notify the folks to go out onto a website and put in their personal information so they can be contacted. It was an issue down south during the San Diego fires where some folks were contacted and some folks weren't. And that's one of the challenges that we have in putting the system in place, is that we get the word out to folks that if you want to be a part of this program and you don't have a land-based phone, you need to provide that information to us.
I was just going to mention that I thought it was important that it wasn't strictly land-based phones, because some of us have them, but I can't, other than an outgoing call for me, I don't even have an answering machine anymore because I'm never there. So there'd have to be, I can't speak for the rest of the population, but I can't imagine too many folks are home during the day to take a landline call.
No, and it actually, I think when I was looking over the work the staff's done on this, they have about 145,000 sites, phones that will be tapped almost instantaneously. And then the rest is just going in and having people sign up. It will follow your phone, of course, to wherever that residence, your cell phone, wherever that residence is tied to. It will follow your cell phone, of course, and it'll call you if there's an emergency in your area of residence. So that makes it kind of particularistic to your needs as well.
But I have to give them my alternate phone number?
I'm not certain about that.
Yes,
I think
you do.
You do.
Or should I say my alternate phone numbers?
That's right.
Phone numbers and or email to be contacted. Now, the city of Dynuba currently has the system. They're very pleased with it in the few times that they've used it. In addition, I believe the Exeter Unified School District has it also, and is working out well. There are a number of different uses for it, and we're looking forward.
Have
to
they called you,
pursuing
Supervisor Wardley?
Well,
You're not home either.
I have a phone. I do have a message machine there. But I was
Yeah,
gonna
but
say-
by the time you got the message, the emergency could be over.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the local public school has it, and they use it very effectively. Foggy day schedules, reminders from the band teacher. You got music teacher need to be there at 7 o'clock the next morning, and so forth. I just think this is a quantum leap in terms of safety, because in the past, take a flood situation. Or a fire in the mountains where you'd actually have deputies or someone going out, emergency personnel, knocking on doors, trying to contact people to tell them, you got to get out, whether it's water, fire, or, whatever the case might be, is on its way. This is it won't eliminate that, it just will reduce it by so much. I mean, we'll be able to get so much better coverage. So if you can reach 80% of the people by phone, and then you'll have to contact the other 20 some of the way. Right now, it's 100%. So I mean, it is a huge leap in terms of public safety, and we recognizing that most of our issues are here in the valley floor, but we have an increasing population of people who live in the mountain areas, and that's where you have fire dangers as well as different things. So I think it's a tremendous public safety issue. Appreciate you bringing it forward to us, John, and be glad to move its approval.
Sound like a motion to me.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Cast your votes, please. Motion passes unanimously, except with Supervisor Ishida absent. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Guess we'll move to an information-only item 22 from RMA. So does that mean, there's Henry.
Henry's responding.
I mean, obviously you can read it, but if you'd like to come up and say hello to us, Mr. Hash, that's a good thing.
Good morning. Hello, Madam Chairman, board members. Henry Hash, we were not planning on any presentation, except that the good thing about this bidding is we received 14 bids, very
noticed that.
favorable. That's a good direction to go, and this is no different than other bids, similar counties. So the lowest bid is much lower than our engineering estimate, which is a pleasant surprise.
It's amazing. $1.6 million difference. And two things struck me about that. One was, of course, the number of
Yes.
people applying for this job, and then the other was the fact that they were so far below the engineer's estimate. Let's hope our road projects will do as well. But it does go to show that in this economy, where some of the benefits of the economy we now have are that instead of having inflated values, we have people sharpening pencils and looking for ways they're hungrier for the jobs, and so it's quite evident by these kinds of bids. And
Yes, sir. In the past few years, we have had sometimes 2 bids or 1. This is good news.
remarkable.
I was
Yeah,
impressed.
one
Supervisor
bid.
Cox, that's why I asked him to come, because I was relatively certain you'd have at least one question.
Well, just to add on, you've got, I think, 11 bids within 10% of each other, which is a very tight spread. My question is, have typically government entities do this? They always take the lowest bid. Have we worked with Wood Brothers Incorporated in the past, and do we know they have the ability to do a $9 million job, $8 million job? And I'm sure you'll look at that as we go through. I just, one of my problems as a contractor has always been low bid always gets the job, and sometimes the low bid missed 1 or 2 lines on their contract. As they were adding numbers up, they might have missed something.
Ah, the famous change order.
Just a word, a word of caution, because I mean it's nice to see that a lot of them are within 10% of each other, which is a good sign. But being 15-20% below the engineer's estimate is a concern.
Yes, we agree, Supervisor Cox. We make sure that we look into the ability of the contractor to do the job and numbers also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hash.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you call that the swimming pool clause, don't you? If you run into problems, it could be more.
Yeah.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
I joke about that, but when I served on the redevelopment agency for the city of Tulare, they used to tease me and call me Change Order Conway, because I used to make staff, we'd have to take the lowest bid, but then by the time you get through the change orders and you get to the actual cost of the project, it ended up being as much, if not more, than a higher bidder. And some change orders, obviously, you can't anticipate all that will be there, but at some point it just, so when they called me Change Order Conway, I learned to get over it. Okay, I'm stretching, but I'm not doing very well. Next item on the agenda would be public comments. Anybody wishing to address the board on matters under our purview, but not on the agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Okay, seeing and hearing none. Council, do we have anything we could do in closed session that might be a valuable way to spend our 15 minutes before we get to our timed items?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
You have items, let's see, B, E, and F on your board's closed session agenda. Items A, C, and D have been pulled.
Okay. Well, we'll adjourn to closed session for at least 15 minutes and see what we can get done, and then be back for our 9:30 timed items. Mr. Hayter, you're in charge of coffee and donuts while we're gone. Not for us, for everybody else. Okay, I guess the statement is, we're back. And I don't see donuts, so I guess you had other things to do with your time, Mr. Hayter, which is for the best, seriously. So on that happy note, we will take item number 1, which is a public hearing. Request from Resource Management Agency to receive comments regarding the closeout of grant number 05 PDA 1472.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, board members. Hope this day finds y'all well. Lori Mercer, Resource Management Agency, Community Development and Redevelopment. Before I start, I wanted to explain with the Community Development Block Grant Program, there is a citizen participation requirement, which is why we go ahead and read these speeches into the minutes. A lot of grant programs don't have that citizen participation requirement, or at least to the degree that the CDBG program does. So just to give you a little brief why we do this.
We have a few citizens here. Do you have a required number?
No, there's
One.
not. There's not a required number. It's
see
just
one.
required that we offer the opportunity.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead with the first public hearing. Spanish translation was advertised, however, no one required these services, but if there is anyone here, we would be glad to offer those services. A sign-in sheet is available for anyone wishing to sign. This public hearing is being held to review and receive comments regarding the closeout of the Community Development Block Grant number 05 PTAA 1472. It is to disclose the accomplishments and to provide citizens the opportunity to comment on the grant performance. The county utilized these grant funds to provide for 2 studies: to prepare a regional wastewater treatment system feasibility study and to prepare the Sequoia Field Economic Revitalization Study. All grant funds and local commitments to the program were expended and all milestones were achieved. Additionally, the State Department of Housing and Community Development approved Tulare County's request to amend the standard agreement for grant number 05 STBG 1563 to transfer the remaining $35,519 in funding for the grant from grant number 03 EDBG 909. These funds will be utilized to provide public services to the working families within the unincorporated areas of the county. And through this transfer process, the county has been successful at keeping these funds available for our jurisdiction and avoiding any requirements to disencumber these funds. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions and express their opinions. Additional information and opportunity to review public information files is available upon request. Staff would like to express their appreciation to our consultants, Carollo for the Regional Wastewater Treatment System Feasibility Study, and Aries for the Sequoia Field Revitalization Study. We would also like to thank staff for all their efforts and hard work. We would like to continue to look for opportunities that will stretch our funding throughout our county. And we'd also like to thank management for their creative thinking and efforts to secure funding. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to bring this to you, to welcome any questions if you have any.
Questions for board members?
One quick question. Mr. Hayter, can I get a copy of the Sequoia Field study as well as the last sentence of your staff report for the fiscal impact? It says the funds, the $35,000, will be used to provide public services to working families within the unincorporated areas of Tulare County. Can you give me just a less than 1 minute explanation of what those public services to working families are?
At the moment, the $35,519 will be provided to FoodLink for food services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's nothing else, it is a public hearing, so I believe I need to open that at this time. So I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the board? Okay, don't all jump at once. Seeing and hearing no one, we close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for action.
Move approval, Madam Chairman.
Second, a big second.
Okay, I have a motion and a really big second. Cast your votes, please.
Really big.
I'm in one of those moods.
Really big. Really big.
Waiting for a vote.
shake with it,
District
didn't
1.
Alan?
Rashida, you get to vote because you're here. Do we all have to vote again?
There it goes.
With
There
lights
we
on.
go.
Green.
Motion passes unanimously, actually, with all 5 board members now present. Thank you. And on to public hearing number 2.
Again, Lori Mercer, Resource Management Agency, Community Development and Redevelopment Division. And another CDBG public hearing. So again, the speech, this one's a little bit longer for application. The Board of Supervisors is holding a public hearing to review and receive comments and solicit input regarding the authorization to submit an application for the 2008 Community Development Block Grant Program General Allocation application. Citizen participation is also sought for the use of CDBG program income as leverage for this application. Spanish translation was advertised, however, no one requested these services. A sign-in sheet is available, and while signing is voluntary, we would appreciate you doing so. The objective of the CDBG program is to develop viable communities by providing safe and decent housing, a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities principally for low and moderate income individuals. For the 2008 funding cycle, the CDBG program has increased the maximum award amount for its general allocation to $1.5 million, with $500,000 for programs and $1 million for projects. In addition, CDBG is encouraging jurisdictions to implement green technology for all activities by awarding bonus or state objective points to implement green technology for all activities. These green efforts include promoting smart growth, walkable communities, buying local, incorporating energy efficiencies, and environmentally sustainable materials into all of our projects and programs. Eligible activities under the general allocation include, but are not limited to, housing rehabilitation, housing acquisition, new housing construction, community facilities, public services, and public works. Activities funded with CDBG allocations must carry out at least one of the following three objectives: benefit to targeted income persons, including low-income, minority, handicapped, and/or elderly. And just for your benefit, the definition of targeted income group, or TIG, are those households earning less than 80% of the area median income, with low income being less than 60% of area median income. The second objective would be to aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, and the third would be meeting urgent community development needs. It is recommended today that the county apply for $1.5 million in grant general allocation funds to provide financing for the following projects: owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program, the Rich Grove Green Alley project, and Goshen Community Center project. The proposed projects will alleviate severe health and safety hazards plaguing the communities and will meet the CDBG national objective of providing benefit to communities consisting of at least 51% in the targeted income group, and that is evidenced by the census data. In association with this application, CDBG program income in the amount of $100,000 is proposed to be used as local leverage for the Rich Grove Green Alley project. Your board is being asked to authorize both the submission of the application and the expenditure of CDBG program income. As indicated previously, the purpose of the public hearing is to provide opportunity to ask questions and encourage citizens to express their points of view. We have invited members of the public to submit written comments to the County of Tulare Resource Management Agency Community Development and Redevelopment Division at 5961 South Mooney Boulevard, and have given instructions on the hours that we are available. All Tulare County CDBG programs are implemented in ways that are consistent with the county's general plan and commitment to fair housing and equal opportunity. Applicants are not and will not be discriminated against on the basis of race, color, ancestry, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, or physical handicap. Thank you for the opportunity. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Oh, okay. If there's no questions, and it is a public hearing, which we will now open. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board on this? And hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Although I did have one quick question for Mr. Hayter. And it's probably something that could wait, but I just get excited about the Rich Grove after, as I told him, if it's really true that patience is a virtue, then they are a very virtuous community. Are we closing in on projects there, or are we midway, or?
We're midway. Of the three phases of the project in Rich Grove, two are completed. One was the ponding basin, the other was the installation of pipeline. We've had to do some re-engineering work to accommodate some of the parking issues in front of the school. However, my understanding is we're just about finished with that. We're hoping to go out to bid in April. Should be finished construction hopefully by Christmas. And that will complete.
In time for the
Memorial.
Christmas parade. Just kidding.
The one quick comment on the Green Alley program that we're proposing here. This is a demonstration project for low-volume traffic areas where we're using what they call porous pavement, where you no longer are required to provide curb and gutter to channel water. It actually percolates through the pavement itself. This is a long-term demonstration project to see how it performs. It's some very short strips. It may be a portent of things to come in how we do construction, so we're very excited about this.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bill, because
Add that
when I
in.
saw that, I thought it said evaluating, and I thought, well, we're not spending $850,000 just to evaluate something, but you're talking about actually doing the projects and then using it as a pilot program to evaluate its effectiveness.
That's correct.
Does this involve in putting in some kind of gravel underneath it or something?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah.
One of the key components to maintaining porous pavement is obviously street sweeper, which Rich Grove has.
Yay.
So all the pieces parts are there.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the innovative approach. Okay.
Well, before the,
Before the vote? Yes.
one quick comment. On the set-aside public service project, the Goshen Community Center, I would hope and encourage staff to be inclusive of the public and just not plan a project, go out and do it without including working with the local community leaders there and possible other partners that might want to partner on a project as well. Instead of just going out and doing a project, let's work with the community and make sure the community gets a project that it will use.
The staff report indicates that they're collaborating with CSED and the Goshen Community Services District as a part of that.
And knowing what we know about the Goshen community group, I can't imagine anything slipping by without
Well, there's already been others that have
Without their
contacted me
comment.
and said they'd like to be involved that don't include those folks.
They are one of our most active community groups out there, which we appreciate.
If there's any group that we need to know about, if you'll let us know, we'll be sure to contact them.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this is an action item, gentlemen.
Move to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes, please. Passes unanimously, and we'll adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the Tulare County Redevelopment Agency. And here, item number 3.
Item number 3 is just the opportunity to utilize and expend the redevelopment agency funds as listed. Early March, $70,000, Goshen, $200,000, Ivanhoe, $30,000, and Rich Grove, $200,000. And these funds will be utilized for housing rehabilitation and/or for the projects in the redevelopment areas.
Questions? Chairman, can I have a motion?
Move approval, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Motion and second. Cast your votes, please. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Guess that means we're convening back as the Tulare County Board of Supervisors with one item left on our agenda. And I believe that is Board of Supervisors matters. Supervisor Cox.
Well, planning continues to go on for several step-up activities throughout the county. We have lots of time, but I've done this speech about 3 times this week, so I want to make
You're
it
done?
short. Yeah, we have a May 22nd event here in Visalia targeting at-risk youth and their parents. Planning is underway for that. We are working with Tulare County Office of Education and Visalia Unified School District on a grant proposal for high schools that will come to this board, I believe, next week. And then we continue planning for a larger youth summit, for a countywide youth summit that will happen sometime at the end of this year, possibly in November or December. A date is yet to be picked for that. And we continue to work with Ivanhoe, Exeter, and I believe Dinuba and Porterville in the near future to work on possible events in their locations too.
And early, Mark.
And early March.
Thank you. Supervisor Worthley?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tomorrow, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District will be having the first of its Healthy Living Air Summits in Fresno. We had a meeting last Friday with some of our RMA staff to talk about, the concept here is, in the past, the Air District has had a program of notifying the public in a day in advance of when they had health alerts in terms of air quality. And that has sort of run its course in terms of effectiveness. It was pretty difficult to get in your car and hear a report that says it's a bad air day today, so act accordingly. Well, you're already in your car and you're traveling to work or whatever. So it's somewhat difficult to utilize that information in a constructive fashion. So the goal this year is to focus on a week of time and really focus on trying to do something at all levels, personally, businesses, government, and they're looking for the win-win sort of situations. They had one situation where they were talking to Reese Foods in Dinuba, where they have refrigerated trucks that they have to haul their product to market, and they realized that being strategic, they used to just have this whole line of trucks sit there for hours and hours and hours idling and cooling down, and they figured out by being strategic about which trucks and how long of time and so forth, they can cut back on the idling, which of course improves air quality, and also cut way back on their fuel consumption. And so that's the kind of thing they're talking about, win-win situations where people can, and of course it's the perfect timing, and from the standpoint of fuel prices being what they are, energy costs being what they are, people are looking for opportunities to try to reduce those costs, and at the same time we'll have air quality benefits. So we're trying to encourage people to come to these summits, again, for exchange of ideas. This will be a web-based thing. There's all kinds of information on the website about best practices and that sort of thing. And I think there will be some real opportunities for Tulare County as well in this. So I plan on attending that. I will be in Sacramento for a Commission State Mandates meeting this Friday. And then next week I will be absent from the board meeting, as I will be in Washington, D.C. with the Air District lobbying for funds for our clean air efforts in the San Joaquin Valley. So,
Thank you, Supervisor, for your commitment to the county. Supervisor Ishida.
We had a Water Commission meeting yesterday afternoon, and we had a subcommittee report from our nitrate group, and they reported that what we're trying to do is to form an acceptable scientific template to do water testing for nitrates in domestic wells in Tulare County. And during that process, we can raise the funds to determine the sources of nitrates so we could see if we could mitigate the nitrate contamination in the east side of our county. Another item we discussed was an update on a grant for $25 million for Tulare County, a pilot program to connect disadvantaged communities, sewer and water systems. And at the present time, there's a possibility that we can get this to a budget item versus a legislative item. Senator Asperin's carrying a bill, SB 1439, which would fund the $25 million to Tulare County. And what we plan to do with the money, if we can get the money, is to look at disadvantaged communities hooking up water delivery and sewer delivery systems. That also includes disadvantaged communities hooking up to incorporated municipal districts to provide a long-term solution. So it's rather exciting. By the end of next month, we expect there will be a hearing on either the bill or a budget item request. So I'm sure some of us will attend to lobby for that to happen. That's all.
Short meeting, I heard. Supervisor Ennis?
Last Thursday, Supervisor Ishida and I and Ted Smalley and had a meeting with the people concerned about the abandonment of the San Joaquin Valley Railroad that is trying to take place from Joe Vista to Exeter. We brought in some consultants who have gone out and studied the track, looked at it. They thought the track was in pretty good shape, considering track they've seen in the past. But This abandonment is going to be in two phases. The first phase would be from Strathmore to Exeter. The second phase would be from Jovista to Strathmore, which would entail Porterville and also pull in the surrounding areas, and the little spurs that go off the sides. But San Joaquin Valley Rail, when they took this over, this was their number one concern. They wanted to go for abandonment and salvage. So what they did, they went out and raised a tariff of $1,000 per boxcar, shut all the business down. So when they go back to talk to the people in Washington, they say, we got this stretch of railroad here, which is unproductive, it's not making any money. Well, naturally it's not going to make any money because people can't afford to use it. So we brought some consultants in from the Pennsylvania area who have fought these things in the past. They're putting together a plan of action for us. It looks good. We're even possibility of thinking maybe public-private on the rail. But, you know, it's a clean air issue. It's the future, we know. And so we're going to do everything we can from the standpoint of Tulare County to try and block this thing. So, yeah.
I also like to add, they're looking at abandoning all the way to Reedley. So it's far larger stretch than South Tulare County to Exeter.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox, you had one more thing?
If I did forget one thing. Sunday morning, I spent 8 hours out at Mooney Grove Park working as a volunteer, and I've got to report to the board that there was a lot of to-do about reducing the number of cars and the activities that have been taking place in that park. And I assisted in checking in the first 400 or so cars, and out of those 400 or so cars, there were 2 people that were upset about us limiting the number of cars in the park. Without exception, the rest were very happy because the park was a much safer place. There were families, lots of families throughout the park able to enjoy the weekend or the day there. There were, that I counted, 3 groups of folks obviously affiliated with gangs, wearing lots of colors, walking around in packs, blocking the streets. But the employees told me, and the law enforcement told me, that was much better than it had ever been. No incidents as far as when I was there, and none that were reported after that. So it was a great day to go to Mooney Grove Park on Sunday, and with the exception of 2, hundreds of people told me they were so happy with the atmosphere in the park, and they felt safer in the park that day. So I think a good report. I think we did a good thing. Last year, remember the headline in the press was "Too many police in the park." Well, that was buried somewhere in the middle of an article this week, that there were a lot of policemen there. The highlight of it was a safe place for families to enjoy an Easter Sunday. So it was I think a very good thing we did there at that
Those
park.
Kings County people that were complaining, right?
Well, actually, there were people from all over California. We had people from north and south.
North Bay.
No, I mean far north, Bay Area, far south is San Diego.
East and west.
It was actually an all red party.
Since you asked that, I'll resist the temptation to ask him if he was weaponized.
No, it was not. It was volunteer.
I just have something quickly. On Wednesday, I'm going to participate in a meeting with Secretary Bonner. If you're familiar, he is the Secretary of Business, Housing, and Transportation, taking over the position from Secretary McPeak. The meeting focuses on the California Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley. The BTH is the funding mechanism for the minimal funds that the partnership has. The grant funding and all of that was done through BTH. So we want to talk to him about the future of the partnership, BTH's role in that, whether the legislature decides to create an entity called the California Partnership and how that will be funded. But also, the Secretary, as the Secretary of Business, Housing, and Transportation, he then, is the boss, if you will, or the supervisor for Caltrans, although we all know Will Kempton as the lead on Caltrans issues. we'll also be talking to him about that. Once again, just trying to secure funding for the San Joaquin Valley when it comes to transportation issues, to make sure that we're there and at the table. And that's all I have. Council, I think we need to go back to
We're going
closed
to
session.
adjourn back to closed session, yes.
Okay, thank you. You anticipate any?
I do not anticipate any.
Great, thank you. We'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you all for being here this morning.